I'm Jen.
I'm Coco.
And
This is Tipsy Talks with Jen and Coco. I think we nailed that.
I think we did pretty good. Content warning. This episode includes sensitive topics, including sexual assault. Please listen with care. If this brings anything up for you, you're not alone. RAINN, and that's RAINN, offers free confidential support 24/7 at 800-656-HOPE or RAINN, RAINN.org.
Okay, so before we start, what does feeling safe in this conversation mean to you? For those who might have other people who they want to have this conversation with, I think this is an important way to start it. I think it's important. I mean, I know you're good, but anybody can ask those questions to support a survivor. And I think that's a great way to start. Okay, please.
To answer your question, I think that feeling safe in a conversation about this topic, I think that you can pick up like the direction that I want to go. So like some people are like I'm fully open because I do a lot of survivor speaking, and I think that it's important to be upfront and honest with people so that they know like my story and they can take what they need from it. But there's other people who are more timid to give information, or they don't like to talk about certain aspects of their assault or whatever the case may be. And I think that it's important to let the conversation go in the direction that they lead it.
Yeah, not be like, tell me this.
And I think that when you walk into a conversation like that, you set yourself up for a certain level of anxiety because you don't know what to expect.
You as the survivor or the friend?
The friend.
Okay.
Because if you've never had that conversation with me, it would be like you don't know how I react to that conversation. So going into it with a knowledge that it will come organically and you don't have to pry details out, or if you don't understand something, it's not your place to ask for clarification or say, well, that doesn't make sense, or whatever, is happening.
So why did you want to talk about this topic this week?
I wanted to talk about sexual assault because it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
April.
And it's almost over, but I feel like my story is important for people to hear who may be going through the same situations. And it's something that I enjoy about both you and I is that we have subjects that we're really passionate about. So if we can bring light to those subjects during the months that are supporting them, I think that it's important.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for being willing to share. Where do you want to start? Like we said, that's how we met, was you wrote your blog. And so I know your story, and there's a room of 880 people that know your story and those who have watched it on YouTube. But other than that, how much of that do you want to recap, or do you want to just start at the beginning, or...
I think that we could just start at the beginning.
Okay. So share what you want to share and how you want to share it. And I will just try to listen.
No, you can ask questions.
So I guess let's just have you start at the beginning.
Okay.
How old were you? And do you want to talk about your perpetrator? We've talked a little, but...
Yeah, I'm fine with talking about it.
Take us back to like your first memory and share what you're comfortable sharing.
Okay. So my story is my perpetrator. I don't use that word, so it's weird.
I know that I don't want to give him a name because it gives him power.
Oh.
And so he is just a perpetrator to me, but you use what you're comfortable with.
It is my stepdad. So when I was really young, my dad was in the military and we lived in Virginia. And he had an affair, and my parents ended up getting divorced, and my mom and I moved back here to Colorado, and we lived with my grandparents for a while. And then my mom met my stepdad. And my only experience at that point, I was in second grade, was the lady that my dad was with. So negative, because my mom didn't always keep it clean when it came to her and my dad's divorce. She did tell me, like, that's the lady he cheated on me with.
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh, yeah. That's not good for like an 8-year-old.
No, and so my first knowledge of a step parent was my stepmom and her, like, that my family was broken up. And it's not just her fault, it's both parties' fault. But when you're that young, you don't think of your dad as being a bad person.
Right.
So I was not down with having a step parent because she came first, and then my stepdad came, and I already didn't like him because I didn't like her.
Right.
None of my friends or my cousins at the time had step anything. So it was weird. And I didn't like him to start. And then this house that we lived in, I had lived in for a long time, and I had friends in the neighborhood, and we had to move. And we moved to a farm, and I'm really grateful for that time in my life of living on farms, because when I speak, I always talk about it's hard with him because in some ways he was my dad, and he taught me I could plant, water, and harvest an entire field because he taught me those things. And so I have good memories with him. Sometimes it's hard to, because people automatically think, well, you should just hate that person like fully, when you don't really have to hate the person fully. This started a string of many, many moves. He was a farmhand, and he could not keep a job, like, period. We were in some cases moving every 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
I went to so many different schools, and there were some times when, like, when I was in high school, I lived 45 minutes away from school, and I drove to school.
So how old were you by the time your mom married him?
3rd grade.
Oh, so not too long after the divorce.
No, my parents got divorced when I was, like, in preschool, when Travis knocked out my 2 front teeth.
Oh, Travis. Did he ever reach out to you, by the way?
No.
Oh, Travis, we're waiting for an apology.
So my mom and my stepdad got married, and we moved to farming communities all around, like, in the state, in Colorado, northern Colorado. And the very first time that anything happened with him, my mom was a school photographer. And so she was gone out of town doing pictures, and she was coming home that day, and we were wrestling in the living room, and he groped me. If he wouldn't have reacted the way he did, I would have thought that it was an accident.
Yeah.
But my mom was pulling down the driveway, and he picked me up and took me to my closet and grabbed me by my throat and told me that if I ever told anybody what happened, he would kill me.
And this is in 3rd grade?
Yeah. Again, if he would have not said a single word, I would have thought it was by accident because we were wrestling.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, it just got progressively worse.
When your mom wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, what he did do as I got older is, when we lived in the country, I hate coyotes and I hate mice. 2 things, just I hate them. And you could always hear them unless you had something on in your room.
Like a white noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a little black and white TV, and I would have it on, but I wouldn't have it loud. But he would tell my mom that he was coming in to tell me to turn my TV down. And so what I developed in that time is I developed one habit that I still have to this day. And that is that I would always, 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 before I went to bed, get something to drink so that I had it in my room. Because if I had to get up to get a drink, he would know I was awake. I developed that habit as a way of protecting myself because if he would come into my room, I would roll over so he would think I was asleep and then he would leave. And that happened from the time I was in third grade. And the last I remember it was like when I was in eighth grade. So my mom didn't have any idea. He was super abusive to her. He used to beat the shit out of her on a regular basis.
But not you,
No,
physically beat.
Never ever hit me. So I never told my mom because I was afraid of what would happen if she stood up for me. Because in my head, I thought she would stand up for me. And then flash forward to eighth grade, she had a hysterectomy and it was the worst fucking time of my life. She was horrible, like so mean. And as a female, I completely understand. But as a teenager, it was bad. We got into a fight about something and I had either disrespected him or something had happened. And she's like, I don't know why you don't respect him more. He's been around more than your own dad has. And I don't know what happened, why I chose to say it on this day. But I was like, I don't respect him because he's been molesting me for years. And I thought to myself at that moment, oh shit, what did I just do? But then I was so relieved that it was finally out. And she didn't believe me.
What was her initial reaction? She just immediately was like, no, go to bed. You're lying.
She's like, he would never do anything like that. And then so I would tell her about situations when it would happen. And she would blame me for wrestling with him. But kids wrestle with their parents.
She's trying to justify.
Or she would tell me that it was my fault because of what I was wearing. Well, kids wear t-shirts and underwear to bed. Why would I need to be different?
Also, like, third graders don't get molested. Can we just like full stop?
Yeah. So she basically was trying to make me think that it wasn't happening the way that I thought it was happening.
Just like a quick pause. I think that obviously denial is the first response to a lot of disclosures like that. And I know why. But why do you think people deny? Or you probably know why too, but just from my professional experience.
Go ahead.
Because they don't want to believe there's bad in the world.
I don't think that that was the case for my mom. I think it was that she couldn't believe that she would marry a person that would do that to her kid.
Yeah, like there's not bad in the world. There's not someone that actually does that.
No, I don't think it was. I think she didn't want the guilt of her bringing that person into the house.
That's such a mom move, though, for them to take on your trauma right away.
We never talked about it again. Never once until the day she died did we ever talk about it again. Except, I will say one time, we were at a family reunion and something happened and I ended up disclosing to a few people in my family. And I got in so much trouble for it.
No.
So from the time I was in eighth grade until the day she died, we never talked about it again.
And you didn't tell anybody else?
I told my first husband and I told my wife. I went to a farm school and we didn't have education on what to do if anybody discloses to you. We didn't have those things there. It was farm, football,
basketball,
ag, wrestling, all those things. Fast forward to, so she didn't leave him for probably between 6 months to a year after I told her.
Did he know that you told her?
I don't know.
So his threat in the beginning of like, I will kill you. Obviously we know he fucking wouldn't have because he's a coward, in my opinion. But did that give you relief or did that like
No, I was
She'd tell
afraid of
him
him until the day he died.
Okay.
Like, I very much
from the day one incident.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's because one, I saw what he did to my mom, and then two, I'll address two later because that kind of like hinders the rest of my story. So I'll have to remember to come back to that. She did end up leaving, and I think that it was under the I'm tired of you abusing me and not being able to keep a job, and we can't.
Praise her though, because it takes
It didn't last.
her leaving him.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was just for like 6 months. We were gone, and then we ended up moving back in with him. And then she stayed with him until my senior year of high school. And then she finally split up with him, but again, not for good. He came back around after I graduated. And I think at the time she was incredibly lonely because I moved out shortly after graduation and she was alone. And so they ended up getting back together. She co-signed on a truck for him. And they rented a house together, and they were supposed to be moving in, and it was a really cute house in the country. Right before they were going to move in, she found out that he was cheating on her and that he had gotten this woman pregnant.
Oh, God. Just a solid guy all around.
Yeah, and he was leaving the truck at like random like it was just because he wasn't paying, so it was being repoed.
So he was like intentionally fucking up her credit.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
So she did tell me that she found out that this woman was having a girl. And I don't know if she told me that so that I knew or so that I would do something about it. There was no other.
Why would that matter? So to
Yeah,
speak?
there was no other conversation. She just said, I found out that he's having a girl. So I decided that at that time I was still talking to him, and I decided that I was going to go over to this apartment that he was living in with this woman on Father's Day and tell him, if I find out you've done this to somebody else, I will turn you in for what you did to me.
And you're what, like maybe 18?
Oh no, I was 19.
Okay.
I was with my first husband. We were dating at the time.
Okay.
And so I told him that, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I love you, and I would never do that. And I would never do that to you. I would never do that. So he's like, I'm so sorry. And then I made sure that I did it loud enough so that this lady could hear me. What I found out after the fact was that the door was cracked and she was intentionally listening. I thought that she just wouldn't even come to the door at all, but she was standing at the door listening. So I tell him this, we're getting ready to leave, and he's like, can I give you a hug? And I was like, fine. And as he was hugging me, he grabbed my ass.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No.
Oh my God. I hate him even. Is it possible I hate him even more?
It's not worth it anymore.
It was almost like he was like,
Taunting.
I dare you.
After that, I either became or like, I think maybe it was MySpace at the time, or just when Facebook was starting or something like in that time, because I became friends with him so that I could watch him and make sure that he wasn't doing anything. And when I say that, I didn't think he'd be posting pictures of him doing stuff, but there were certain things that he said to me that dads don't say to kids. Like, not like dirty things, but he would call me baby or just weird things that I don't know how to explain it, but I just knew how he referred to me and how I knew that most dads refer to their kids.
Yeah. So you were watching for that grooming behavior
Yes.
online.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was never anything.
Okay, hold on. We have to come back to this because I have a question. How was it to confront your perpetrator like that? To go up to him, like how drunk were you? I'm just kidding.
I wasn't.
And how did you, just the knowledge that he could be doing it for this new child, or what gave you that strength, and like how did you get through all of that?
Well, I just knew that what he did wasn't right, and I didn't want anybody else to have to go through it. So in my head, I was like, I'm the one that holds this knowledge besides him, and I want to make sure that it doesn't go any further than this.
And just the power just came to you in that
Yeah.
moment instead of as a child.
And this whole thing from this point forward was never about me. It was about making sure that everyone else was safe.
And I think that's what a lot of survivors say, because, and I don't know why I'm not a therapist, but I think it makes it so it's not about them, because it's not fun to be about you. No one wants to share these things. No one makes these things up. But I think most survivors say, I did it for someone else, when it's okay if it's for you, because it was you, and that's not okay.
Yeah. But for me, I can 100% say
I know. And knowing you
wasn't.
and your relationship with this child and all these, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of survivors do that. And of course they would. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But also, it's okay to just be like, this wasn't okay, and I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
So, sorry. Okay, so back to...
We left. I started following him on social media. Never saw anything that concerned me at all. And then one day, I see him posting about another little girl. And he's using similar words, posting pictures of her sitting on his lap. Things that I know happened to me. And so I decided that I was going to go to the Greeley Police Department and report him for what had happened. And I went there not because I don't think I even lived in Greeley at the time. Maybe I did, but I went there because my grandma had worked there and I felt comfortable with the officers there. And so I go in and I tell my story, and it sits for a while, and then...
Like years?
No, probably like months.
Okay.
And then it goes to... They have to send it to the county, because when all of this happened, we lived on farms, so it wasn't in their jurisdiction. Go tell my story at the county, and... then it sits there for months and months and months, long time. And this whole time, I'm just calling my advocate, trying to get an update, not getting an update, not hearing anything that's going on. I have no idea what's happening. And come to find out, they had to kick it back to the Greeley Police Department because there was a conflict of interest with his current wife, that little girl's mom. She worked at the sheriff's department and was in the process of suing the sheriff's department. So they could not be part of it.
It's a quality lady right there.
Yeah. So then it gets sent back to the Greeley Police Department, and I get stuck with this detective who's on his way out. He is now a real estate agent, and he just didn't really care. It was an old case. And at that point, what I didn't know until I was given to my final detective was there was an issue with statute of limitations, which is no longer a thing in Colorado.
It doesn't matter when it happened.
Yeah.
You can pursue.
Yeah, but at that time, it was 10 years. If it was more than 10 years, then they couldn't do anything.
Since the last incident.
Yes.
Okay.
So it gets given to my last detective, and he was really great. He called me up. He's like, I think we should do a controlled call with him. And so he explained it to me. And basically what it was is I went to the police department, and they called his phone with a phantom phone number. So it showed up with just a random number, so that he didn't have my phone number. So we called.
Oh, so safe. So smart.
Yeah. So the first time we called, he didn't answer. I had to leave a message. The second time we called, it was a couple of days later. He's like, I was really confused when you called because I tried to call you back and it was a lady that speaks Spanish, and I just thought, she doesn't speak Spanish.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh,
No,
but like
it's like, what
that's
fucking idiot.
oh my god.
So
He's so dumb.
I talked to him, and I'll insert a little clip here of the conversation.
Yeah, I remember one night I woke up and your mom was asking me in her oh so kind way, what the hell are you doing? Well, and right at that moment I realized I was dreaming about you and loving on her, and I was like, okay, this isn't good. No, I know I used to grab your legs when you were driving. Some of that was because I liked the feel of the nylon. Some of it was because I wanted to see how you reacted while you were driving.
When I'm talking about at Joe's house, and you did it when we lived in LaSalle, too, is you'd come in, and I remember because I would roll over and pretend like I was sleeping when you would put your hand down my pants, and I'd roll over the opposite direction.
I believe you. I just don't remember it. There was a something there that was there for me, but not for you.
Then he was like, oh, I remember that your mom and I were on a lot of drugs back then, and the only thing I know about my parents doing was weed.
Which is not a major drug now.
Yeah, and maybe coke, but I'm not 100% sure about that. My mom never told me about that, so I don't know, but that would be my guess.
And so these questions were to try to get him to
Admit to doing something.
just anything at any time, or was it just specifically to get
Anything
it out
at
of the
any-
statute of limitations?
It was just like to address like everything to see if they could get anything out. So basically he's saying, I believe what you're saying. Let's see if we can shake the tree and catch something.
Oh, what a good detective. Can I call him by name? Detective Dennis.
Yeah, he is not with the Greeley PD anymore.
Well,
but
he is amazing. And
he was and that's what got him. Because at the time, I was like it was almost 10 years, but we were not in the 10 years.
Oh.
And so they were trying to get a hold of him and trying to talk to him. And he would not call them back. They told him he is a witness to an accident, like everything. He wouldn't call back. So finally they issued a warrant. And he was arrested. After a while, like this process took years. It was not like it took forever. So he finally got arrested and bonded out, was not supposed to go home because there was a tender age child there who was not his. He went home.
Of course he did.
Got put on an ankle monitor. And then it took months and months and months. And throughout this whole time, I'm getting very limited information from all of my advocates. And I will say that I think that advocates are overworked and they have a lot on their plate. But also from the victim side, I think it left a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
My advocate for the DA's office, I reported her because I felt like she was not doing her job.
Well, and she's working with the most anxiety-driven situation, and to put someone in that situation when they should know already how hard it is.
Yeah.
Like, call everyone every day.
Yeah. So I was calling and pushing and trying to get updates, and it took forever to go to trial. And he hired this attorney who is fucking awful. Like,
awful how?
She, one time when I was in the courthouse, I was filing for divorce, I think. And I heard her around the corner. And she represented sex offenders. And she was talking to a dude, and she's like, I have this new case, and this guy was accused of rape, but I don't think he raped her because of what she was wearing.
Oh, my God.
She's a fucking trash human.
I really hope she stubs her toe every step she takes.
I also know that she's a trash human from, like, other volunteers at the organization I volunteer at. They've had interactions with her, and she's equally as trashy with everyone. It wasn't just like that one situation.
Wow. Why? Like the money?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how she slept at night.
I don't understand. Like, even just, and I know everybody deserves representation, but how can you sleep at night?
Well, and just that phrase alone just is so fucking disgusting. She just like kept filing motion after motion to get it moved or discontinued or discharged or whatever. So finally we go to trial, and it's a week-long jury trial. And they have everybody that I ever disclosed to testifying. And when I was doing trial prep, they beat in, not physically, but beat into me that I was not allowed to talk about anything that had happened in any of the situations prior to this incident that he admitted to, which was very difficult because I didn't remember what he was talking about. But they said, if you talk about any of this stuff, then it'll be a mistrial because it was outside of the statute of limitations. But if his attorney brings it up, the door is open. And she did. So
Worth her weight in gold.
during this whole trial, it was very tumultuous. They played the recording, and the lady he was married to was sitting in the courtroom, and she did not believe that he did these things, even though that recording, he fucking owns it.
Right. And this is the woman that was listening when you told,
No.
when you, this is a different
This
woman.
is his third wife.
So the daughter that you did this for
Yeah, the one
was
that I
not
saw.
this woman.
Mhm.
Okay.
So there's two daughters. We'll call one Jane and the other one Emily. And so I saw him with Emily having the same behaviors that he had towards me.
Okay.
He did not do them with Jane at all. Like nothing.
Jane, his biological child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So his wife at the time, like having Emily as a tender age child is like, he didn't do anything. You're lying. You're lying. But he's fucking owning it on the recording. Straight up says it. So she was threatening me and threatened my life and all kinds of things. So I had to go in. Typically, you could just go into the courtroom through the main doors and security and whatever. But I had to go in through the DA's office and be escorted into the courtroom.
Because of shit she was doing.
And so then they had to have deputies in the aisle between us and her side.
I can just picture your grandma sitting there just ready, like, come at me.
Yeah. They were always really good about tucking me inside so that there was multiple people around me so that she couldn't see me. But it was hard. And so during the trial, his attorney, like when I say that we moved so much, I'm not kidding. I think when my mom died, we joked about it. And it was 25 places from third grade until my senior year of high school.
Wow.
So she made me draw out the layout of every single bedroom that I had.
Why? Also, who's going to verify?
Well, the crazy thing is half the farmhouses aren't even there anymore. They've been torn
They
down.
can't go out.
So I think that what she was trying to do was trying to prove that I was lying. And she was good. She was real good because by the time that I was done, she had me thinking that I made that whole fucking thing up.
No.
I just was thinking because of the things she was saying and how she was addressing me and how disgusting she was, it really did feel like she was like, this never happened.
Oh my gosh.
So the trial is done. He gets convicted. He gets 2 sentences, 2 different charges. One is something with a person in a position of trust, and I don't remember what the other charge was, but it was a 10 and a 5-year sentence, and they were to be served concurrently. So they were served together at the same time. And in Colorado, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but when you are going to prison, you leave county and you go to this place called DRDC. I don't know what the R stands for, Diagnosis Center. So you go there and they test you on your job aptitudes and they talk to you about why you're in prison, and that's how they determine where they're going to put you in the prison system. So he goes in and he tells them that he did not do anything wrong. anything wrong. So
they're like, you're a convicted sex offender.
So they sent him to a prison that did not have offender treatment. So he was in our prison system. He was in for 8 years, and he never got a single day of therapy when he was in prison.
Well, he wouldn't have gone.
But, I mean, they can make it mandatory.
Oh, that's true. Why didn't they?
Well, I'll address that later. But basically, we just paid for him to exist for 8 years. And with the way that the state of Colorado works is like you get earned time. You get a certain amount of time for every 30 days of good behavior. And so time was getting shaved off, and he was eligible for a halfway house within 6 months of being in prison. For every single time from 6 months into when he went to prison, from sentencing every 6 months, I was writing a new victim impact statement. Sometimes I got a year in between, but not very often. So the first time he was eligible for a halfway house.
So hold on, because I think people who don't know the system, so they notified you, hey, as the victim.
Yeah, so I got a letter from the state advocate saying he's up for a halfway house. You can choose to testify in a hearing with the board that decides this, or you can just let them decide it. And I was sure as shit going to be part of every single one of those conversations.
Because he was still in this little girl's life, or just because you're like, I was vindicated, I was right, and I'm going to keep him in there. He's a bad guy. I mean, probably both. But
what I wanted him to do is I wanted him to go to prison and get help. So in Colorado, again, I don't know how this is everywhere else, but if an offender does go through treatment, they can write a letter to their victims. So any crime that has a victim, you can write a letter in prison to that person, and the person can call in and get it. So every time I would call to see if he had written a letter, and he never did. And so what I thought to myself is if he's not getting treatment and he's not apologizing for what he did, then he doesn't deserve to be out. Because that to me meant that he would do it again. And so every time I would go and I would testify, and the first parole hearing we talked about in our...
That's how we met.
In our very first episode. So we went to the parole hearing, and just in short, his family was there, and his mom was saying that they wanted him to get out so that he could be a father figure to his nieces and nephews. It was weird because before he was arrested, he was owning it. But after he went to prison, he was just like, I did not do this. And he even said to the parole board member that he didn't do it, and he was actively appealing. Well, he had appealed, and the appeal was a 2-part appeal. The first one was that the things that were outside of the statute of limitations were addressed. And then the second thing was when he went through the metal detector at the courthouse, he had to lift up his pant leg, and the jury saw that he had an ankle monitor, and they thought of him as a criminal. So that's why they convicted him. And his appeal was obviously denied. But he spent the rest of that time in prison, and there was a time during COVID where the Colorado prisons were a wreck, and they had...
Sorry, I just remembered what you're about to say.
They had a toilet paper shortage, and so people were using their shirts to wipe, and they clogged the toilets, and the toilets overflowed. And it was in the summertime, and the air conditioning was broken. And so it's just
hot sewage all around.
I don't think that people should be treated like shit because they're in jail or prison, but that just brought a little bit of joy to my heart. That was the situation he was in, considering what he had put me through.
Yeah.
So also what I forgot to mention is during this trial, the woman who he cheated on my mom with, who got pregnant with Jane, she testified on my behalf that I did go over to his apartment and did say this stuff, because they were trying to say that I was just saying it now just to say it, but they were able to establish that it had been happening for a while. I didn't become super close with her, But I'm sure my mom probably rolled over in her grave a little bit because I don't still talk to her, but I still follow her and I still follow his daughter. I still have a little bit of grief that she didn't get a relationship with him, only because I did get to experience some really cool shit with him. So I did feel bad about that. But when he was in prison, this woman that he was married to was a fucking nut job. She would stalk me.
Like physically?
Yes. And then also her mom, Jane's mom, went to her mom's house. And Jane was sitting in the truck waiting for her mom to come outside. And his wife went and followed her.
Why?
Opened the truck door, threw all of these letters and all of this shit that he had made in prison at her and was like, they took your dad away from you. They're liars. And like just completely unhinged. So the mom and Jane decided that Jane did not want a relationship with him. And we moved forward with making sure that he could not contact her from prison because he was trying. Fast forward to 2021. He got out of prison in September of 2021.
Because the parole they finally granted.
Yeah, because he was up for parole. And in Colorado, the percentage of people that actually serve as much of their sentence that he did is relatively low. Most people get out, but he wasn't doing anything to get out. Like, he was just existing. And so the board wouldn't grant his parole or his halfway house because he wasn't doing anything. So he got out and he moved to a town that was in the middle of where I live and where I work. So the chances of running into him were pretty much inevitable. I was going to see him at some point.
Right.
I did see him at a gas station once, but I don't think he saw me. And in his sentencing, he was also charged, or he was sentenced to 5 years of parole, and he had to do intensive offender treatment in the community.
They finally got their shit together and made it mandatory.
Let's see. December of 2023, I got notification that they were moving to discharge his parole, and he had only been out of prison for a bit.
So like he'd just be completely free.
Yes, the restraining order that we had, it would be gone. Everything, it would just be, he would just be a free bird. The only thing is that he would have to be a registered sex offender.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't completely removed from that, but my protections were going away. So I called to see if he did offender treatment. He did not.
What?
He did not go at all.
Then why are they just clearing him?
I didn't know at the time. I had no idea. So at that time, and this is something that I really feel passionately about, is there are not enough resources for survivors after an offender goes to prison. My whole idea of how this process works was Law Order SVU, which what it shows is that somebody discloses, the person gets arrested relatively quickly, the trial is done quickly, the person goes to prison, and they never hear from them again. Never to be heard from unless the few episodes where somebody gets out and does something. Pretty much it was open, close, shut. And so I thought that that's how it was.
Yeah.
I thought he would go to prison, I wouldn't hear from him again. And I think that that's a disservice that happens to any victim. I remember I saw on the news after he went to prison that some girl that got killed in a car accident, the mom was like, he's in prison now, we can move on. And I was thinking, that is not going to happen.
Years
because
from
the
now.
system doesn't allow it. And with good reason, right? For people who have been a victim of violence, you want to know when they're moving or when these things are happening. You want to be aware of them. But by and large, a lot of people just want to get on with their life and they don't want to be reminded every 5 minutes that something is coming up. He got out and didn't do any treatment in the community. And the other thing is that when you register here, it lists every vehicle you have, and he had 5 trucks. He just got out of prison, had 5 trucks.
His family had money because they got to pay for that nasty attorney.
I don't know who paid for the attorney. I think that he lost his house and everything during all of that.
Oh, wow.
So while he was in prison, he also divorced that chick. So,
Oh, the crazy chick?
yeah.
Yeah.
So he gets out, and then we're getting ready to go to this other hearing for parole, and for him to be off of parole. And Jane's mom messages me, and she says, I don't know if you've heard, but I just want to let you know that he is allegedly in the hospital with brain cancer and is going to die. And I was like, this cannot be real. At first, I was thinking his family was staging this to either get him out of the hearing or get sympathy or something. And then he's like, a couple days later, the thing that I'm like really passionate about is there is no resources for this. And when they were going to take him off of parole, I was trying to get a permanent restraining order. And when you fill out their permanent restraining order paperwork, you have to list the things that the person did to you. And I was like, well, he hasn't done anything since I was 16, which was like all these years ago. And there was nobody to tell me how to get that permanent restraining order in place. Like, not a single solitary person that I could talk to could tell me. I talked to advocates from the organization I volunteer with. I talked to the state advocates. I talked to my old advocate at the county. I talked to everyone, and nobody could tell me how to do it. And I think that that goes to say something for the people who just don't have the mental capacity to do that. Like, to consistently follow up and try to fight through that process.
Right. It's victim services only get you to or through and then peace out.
Yeah, it's just completely dropped. And there's nobody. Sure, I could call and talk to the advocates for the state, but the information that they could give me was very limited, and they didn't have any, for lack of a better term, aftercare instructions. Right?
Yeah.
They just didn't have it. So I think that that's something that's really important. And I talk a lot when I talk to hotline volunteers or wherever I talk a lot about how I wouldn't do it again.
Because of how long it took or how hard it. Okay, so just to clarify, obviously most difficult thing mentally.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do it again for that, but you're saying on top of the mental strain and how hard that was, just because of the system and how it's designed and how long it took and the unknowing, you wouldn't do it again.
Probably not.
That's a broken system.
Yeah. And I think that the reasons why is, one, like the pure length of time that it took to even get to a hearing. And I think that the reason that it took that long was because of how old it was. And I don't want to discourage people in just that sense, because I think that if, like, you called and disclosed today, it would happen a lot quicker than if, or you called to disclose something that happened recently versus decades ago or a decade ago. So I think that I wouldn't do it again for just that reason.
For the little girl, Emily, are you glad you did it?
Yeah.
Would you do it again for her?
Yeah.
So if there was no her and you just got your gen tingle and I'm ready to do this.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
Mm-mm. And they did talk to both Jane and Emily, and both of them, what they determined was that he hadn't done anything to either of them, but he was definitely grooming.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because this was so hard for you and they'll never know what you saved them.
Yeah, Emily definitely was not grateful for it, but Jane was 100%. It's been really cool to see her grow up to be a functioning adult and know that he didn't get to do that to her. But I think that the most important takeaway from this situation is that at the end of the day, if you tell somebody and they don't believe you, keep telling other people because somebody will. And in my life, until I got my detective Dennis and until I got my DA Thea, who's no longer there either, I didn't have anybody that was like, we believe you.
So I did have follow up on this. So you told your mom and
Mhm.
she didn't believe you, and she wasn't alive by the time you went to trial. And
Correct.
was she alive when they like put out the warrant for
No.
his arrest? So she wasn't a part of any of
No.
that restorative justice, so to speak.
No, and I also think too that if she had been alive, I probably wouldn't have disclosed either.
Okay.
At the time, like my mom had died, and so my family was like, why are you doing this? And not that they weren't supportive, but they just didn't understand the big picture of why it was happening. Yeah. And I think that they thought that maybe I was trying to do it to get attention, and it wasn't that. It was like I wanted to make sure that it didn't happen to anybody else. And so during the trial, my family was there and they came and they were supportive. And even after the fact, my uncle took it relatively hard because he was like my stand-in dad, and he was upset that I didn't say anything. And my dad, we don't talk about it at all. He's very angry about it. But also, like when he got out of prison, my dad is my neighbor and he was very diligent about watching for vehicles coming by the house and stuff. And what I wanted to circle back to, you said that you didn't think he would do anything because you thought he was a coward. But every time we would have those hearings, like during COVID and even after COVID, they were all done on the phone. The one that you and I went to was the only in-person hearing. As time went on, he was more and more angry in his responses versus just being like, it is what it is. He just became more and more indignant and not aggressive because he knew he couldn't be, but just saying the things that I knew were not safe things. And while not making them unsafe for other people, it's just a person's behavior and you know when they're tipping on the wrong side of the scale.
Did you share that with the parole? Because they would like debrief.
Yes,
right?
I did.
And
Yeah.
did they believe you?
The only time I talked to anybody that I didn't think believed me, it was this dude. And he was like, I feel like he was trying to say that he had been in there for too long for what had happened. And he approved the first layer of him getting out.
How are you now after everything is done, as a person, as a survivor, as someone who advocates for survivors? Like, how are you now?
I'm good.
You're always good.
I speak. So I wrote a blog. I'm not going to link it because it's a secret blog that people don't know that it's me. But I wrote this and it was, I don't know how it all happened, but the organization that I volunteer for got it. And so they did this video that's we're going to include in this episode, segments of it. And I spoke to the room of 880 people. And that's what I do is I go and I speak to hotline volunteers. I talk to high school kids. I talk to a group of men who were going through, I think they were on probation or something. And it was like a victim class. And that was awesome. That was my favorite one. I do it because I know that my story is still impactful, and it's impactful in the way of younger people identifying, but also the disclosing part. And so the partner that I speak with at these events, she did not disclose. And so we have polar opposite stories. And so I think that it's really helpful for that because then you get to see both sides of it. And we're very much the same. After we're done, and you and I talk about this sometimes, after you're done speaking, you have to go out with staff and they ask how you're doing and all of these things.
Check in on you.
I don't do that. We have a brief conversation. I'm like, I'm good. And then I head out. But the weirdest thing about every time that I volunteered or spoken for this organization, for the longest time, sure as shit, like a month before I was supposed to speak, there would be something that would come up for him every time. And so then I would go and speak and it would light the fire and it would fuel it to be able to fight through that situation. And the last time I spoke was his death anniversary this year.
Wow.
And so I felt like I just came full circle to it literally being the day that he died is the last time I spoke. And I think that the only thing that I really deal with now is it feels weird to be free. Like it feels weird to be able to go wherever I want, whenever I want, and not have to worry about seeing him, that I don't have to worry about anything that he did ever again. And also, it sometimes doesn't feel real either. So those are the two different ways that it goes. But overall, I would say that I'm pretty functioning. Like it doesn't impact me. But there are times that there are triggers. There's always going to be little things that happen that ignite some part of your memory as a survivor. I still have an obscene amount of beverages to drink at night. Even though I have absolutely no reason to, I still keep the TV on at night. And then there's weird things, like if you're wrestling one day, just a little thing happens and it may not have happened the day before, but today it just hits different for whatever reason. And that was one of the things that I didn't get to address. When they were interviewing me, one of the things that you think or that it's told to you is that you're disclosing and you're just going to verbally vomit everything that happened verbatim. There's not going to be any deviation from the truth. And they make you think that if there is, then you're lying. But what your brain is supposed to do is supposed to block out those memories to protect you. So every detective that I talked to got a different variation of my story. And during the trial, his attorney tried to make it seem like I was lying because of that. But it could be that they're asking the same exact questions, but they have emphasis on a different word that ignites a different memory or something. I think that that's really important. One, that is to remember that you're not going to remember everything exactly the way it happened immediately. Your brain isn't trained to do that.
It's trained to protect you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think that doing your talking and sharing your story and advice helps heal you? Or once he was convicted and you were like, people believe me, you were not healed, maybe is the wrong word, but able to process it better?
I think that every time I do it, it gives me back a part of me that he took. I think that every time I go, the more people I talk to, and I don't even know how many people I've talked to at this point, the more people I talk to, the more I feel like I'm taking my power back, even though he's not even alive anymore.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what is, and you've talked about things like issues you've had with systems or for survivors, but what is something that you wish everybody knew in supporting you or supporting survivors, and what could have helped you feel better in this situation or going forward?
I think that I don't know that there's anything that could have helped me during the situation, because it was, I feel like my situation was kind of one off because of how long it had been between when I disclosed and when it happened. But what I think that I wish people understood is just because it happened 10 years ago doesn't mean it didn't matter. Doesn't mean that you should shut up and not talk about it because it happened then and you weren't of the age to know what to do about it, or in a situation where you felt like you wanted to do something about it. Like, you don't get the power taken away from you to disclose just because time has passed. You hold that power forever, and nobody gets to dictate when you get to say what happened to you and how that comes out. Now, obviously, don't go crazy and murder the person that did it to you, but know that you can do it at any time. The pressures that we have now in society because of the Me Too movement and because of some of the other things that are happening in the world right now, everybody's like, well, that was a long time ago. You should just let it go.
Mm.
And I think that everybody needs to know that it doesn't matter how long ago it happened, but it fucking happened.
Yeah.
And I deserve the right to share that
Yeah.
in whatever capacity I choose to.
Well, I feel like since I've heard your story the first time, it is just completely expanded so much more, and you're getting amazing, even more amazing than you were.
Oh, thanks.
But thank you for sharing, and we're here to love you and take care of you.
It's bestie time.
Your turn.
What is the smallest hill that you would die on? Mine is that cutting food is fucking stupid.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that about you.
I hate it. I hate it so
But
much.
even steak, you just want to bite it?
I would rather. I hate it. I don't know what it is.
You know what's funny is I'm that person that when I get my French toast and pancakes, I still have to pre-cut them before I eat them. An adult person takes one bite at a
Oh,
time.
no, I've pre-cut too.
I just pre-cut them because it's better that way.
Yeah, all the time when we have steak at my house, my husband cuts my steak for me.
That's a lot.
But also, to be clear, I didn't ask him to do that. He just knows that I hate it, and so he does it.
What about it does not bring you joy?
It's just like the biggest waste of time.
It's literally making it so you can fit the food in your mouth.
I don't know.
Like, how much time do you need? Are you just not good at cutting food?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm only serving foods that you have to cut. Like,
I won't eat.
all of it. I'm going to give you a whole ass potato, not cut up, just whole steak, everything. I'm going to make you pick up your enchiladas. I'm going to do it all. Lasagna, fuck that. You're cutting that shit. You just put your whole freaking fork in it and be like, this is mine. No.
Actually,
Also, like,
what would happen?
the pieces are so hot. You need to make them smaller so you can blow on them.
I hate it. It's not that
Okay.
I don't do it. Like, you have to do it.
Okay.
Like, you could talk to my wife about this when she comes next week. It's been a thing for our whole friendship. Like-
Okay. This is interesting.
Like,
I
she
think
said,
we didn't have to have the therapist unpack this.
she said that she was gonna pay a penance for not listening to the pod to bring me pasta salad. And her pasta salad is so fucking good.
Oh.
And there's so many vegetables in it, and she's gonna cut them all for me.
She's enabling you?
She started it. I had to find a husband that would cut my meat
Oh
for
my
me.
All right. I can't handle this.
My ex-father-in-law used to cut it for me.
Oh my God. This went like external.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so what's the smallest hill you could die on?
I mean, compared to that fucking hill, I don't know. Oh, unnecessary to honk at people when the light turns a different color. Just chill for a sec.
Like, how long?
Well, give it like 3 Mississippis at least.
Oh my God.
Come on. What if I'm like driving a stick and I got to get it in gear?
It doesn't take that long to put the car in gear.
Okay.
If it does, you might need to evaluate if you should be driving, because that's a severe
No.
delay, severe motor delay. What happens if a kid runs out in front of you? You're going to be like, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
No, where's the courtesy of, oh, maybe they're putting their chapstick away. They didn't notice it for a half second. Just chill, man. We're all going to get there at the same time. It's fine. If someone doesn't go, I do the friendly tap after 3 Mississippi. What if I had a stroke and I couldn't go? What if I stalled my stick? just chill the fuck out. And I'll die on that hill. But I think that's the small town in me, probably. You should know. You're from a small town. There's no lights in your town.
Wait, yeah, there is one. Uno.
Mine had a one blinking red light, and now they have no lights. They got rid of it, and now it's a roundabout.
I fucking hate roundabouts.
Oh, I like them. They make traffic go so much better.
If you're with a group of people that knows how to get through them.
Oh, yeah.
But inevitably in this state, especially a college town,
No one knows how.
nobody knows.
Yeah.
And inevitably there's at least one spoke of the roundabout that is just fucked.
But you just got to pay attention and do your thing.
Okay, but what if they don't know how to go? So do you count 3 Mississippis before you honk at
I
them?
guess I just don't have the bad experiences that you have had in a roundabout. No, I'm just patient and let people work through it.
All right, besties, that's all the emotional damage we can afford today.
Thank you for hanging out with us during this episode of Tipsy Talks with Jen and Coco.
If you laughed, cried, or suddenly remembered something you swore you healed from,
You're welcome.
rate, review, subscribe, or just send it to your most unwell friend.